We are live.
We are live. Let's see. Okay, shall we start?
Yeah.
Do we have any viewers?
We are live.
We are live. I know. All right. So welcome everyone to this webinar that we have on.
Did he get kicked out again?
Okay, I'm sorry. I was just getting a lot of echo, so I turned off the YouTube. I'm starting again right now. Welcome everyone to the IFMSA Strategy 2017-2020 webinar. This is quite an important webinar for this term. And in this webinar, we will try to explain a little bit on the process and the reasoning behind the strategy that we're developing right now. And then, of course, you'll also have an opportunity to ask questions directed to any one of us. So I propose that we just get started with the process so far. So just for you to know, the webinar will be structured in a way that will explain why organizations have strategy, how to build them, what have we made so far in terms of strategy, what kind of priorities we're working on, and also how the process will continue from now on, and what kind of online consultation we'll be doing. So I'd kindly ask Firas to move on to the next slide. Okay, so why do organizations have strategies? And this is maybe a point that is especially important for student organizations. We have this very unique, let's say, challenge that our membership or our leadership has a very high turnover rate. That means that every term there are new people coming in into the organization. And with this change of new leadership, there are, of course, new interests, there are new ideas on how to achieve our goals. And that means that, in a way, every year, it happens a little bit that is like pressing a reset button, because every time people start pulling maybe in a bit of another direction than the organization was going before. And usually, if we want to have a meaningful impact and if we want to make a serious change, we need to work on one thing for more than one term or more than 1 year. So that's why we create a strategy, which is a document supporting us throughout several terms and kind of guiding us all the time, so that even if people come in, new people come in, they can always consult what was done so far and what needs to be done until the end of their term or the end of the next term. All right, next slide, please. Creating a strategy is not a very complicated process, but at the same time is not very easy either. It has basically kind of 3 steps to it that are further explained into 6, as you'll see. So first one is that we need to ask ourselves where we want to go in the long term. So that is creating a vision for the strategy. Now, a vision, according to different sources, has a bit of different definitions, but usually it's something that is very, very difficult to reach or even impossible to reach. So that is kind of the ideal that we're striving towards in the world, right? It's either that we cannot reach it, or only if all of the people in the organization, so imagine IFMSA will mean 1.3 million people, or even more if we count all of the medical students in the world. If we come together, we would reach that vision. So something that is very difficult to achieve. Step 2 is assessing where we are right now. So seeing what kind of resources we have, what kind of situation we're in right now. And then basically what a strategy is creating a bridge from where we are to getting us closer to the vision. And the way we do that is when we start assessing the current situation, we also have consultations. We identify who our stakeholders are. Those are the stakeholders are people who are relevant to our work, and where they want to go, how to get there, and so on and so forth. When we have this data, we create kind of, it's called a problem statement. So this is kind of priorities that we want to work on, because a very important part of a strategy is that we prioritize our work, because our resources are not unlimited. When we define those priorities, we define what kind of goals we want to reach, and objectives, of course, for these priorities. We gather ideas or ways of reaching those objectives. And then in the last step, we create a timeline. In our case, this will be over 3 years. And also an evaluation process for the strategy, because if we don't have that evaluation component at the end, we don't know whether or not we've reached it. So this is a kind of a, let's say, standard form of how to create a strategy. Now in the next slide, we will see that what a strategy is. So it's I already mentioned it. It's a document that guides us how to come from the current situation closer to the vision of the federation or of the organization. It involves priorities, objectives, ways of reaching them, and also a way of evaluating the progress. It's very, very vital that it stretches over more than one term, and that it's not also too specific, because then that would be an action plan, not a strategic plan. But in our case, in IFMSA's case, our plan is to create a document no longer than 2 A4 pages, so that it would be very accessible to people. People could read it, and that will guide the federation for the next 3 years. So we chose to have a strategy for 3 terms or 3 years. Now, for the IFMSA itself, let's see how we fit into this whole process. So we already have the vision and the mission. It's been defined in the past, and this is something that we've decided to keep also for our process. Now, the vision and the mission are a thing that doesn't really change that much throughout the years, and it's supposed to be that way. So that's why also we decided to keep it, and we'll get to it in a second, maybe a minute. Anyway, then we proceeded by addressing the current situation. So we made a preliminary prioritization. So we consulted a team of officials, asking them what are the biggest challenges that they're facing, or how they want to see the federation move up in the next few years. And we came up with 5 main priorities that you will also see in a few minutes. In addition to that, we also made a stakeholder analysis. We made a stakeholder map, mapping all of the most relevant stakeholders for the federation. And this was also important because we are going to consult a few of them. So it kind of goes in hand with both the priorities, because we're going to consult people on the priorities, and also the consultation process itself. And you'll see the stakeholders also in a few minutes. And where we are right now is we're in the process of the consultations. Right now, so far we've consulted the African region in the regional meeting. We've consulted the team officials in the team officials meeting too. The next consultation will be now in the Americas meeting. By the way, I'm there right now. Hello from Peru, everyone. And then we have the same plan to do in the EMR regional meeting. That'll be in a few weeks, and then also in the March meeting. So there'll be a very big consultation there for everyone who's present at the meeting. Now, in addition to live meetings, we'll also conduct consultations online. More about that a bit later. And we'll also consult other relevant stakeholders, such as externals, the secretariat, other medical students, and so on. We'll be collecting this data until mid to end March. And we'll be analyzing the data. We're expecting to have quite a lot of data, and we plan to analyze it until April. In April, we have the next, the team officials meeting 4, where we will start working on the analyzed data to see how we can draft the strategy from the data that we have. And we'll continue drafting the strategy until June. Then the draft will be completed, and it will be shared with the NMOs for a final consultation before adopting the strategy in the August meeting 2017. All right, next slide. So here we see the vision and the mission of IFMSA. Like I said earlier, a vision is something that is really far. It's kind of the ideal we strive towards. So in IFMSA's case, the IFMSA vision is a world in which all medical students unite for global health and are equipped with the knowledge, skills, and values to take on health leadership roles locally and globally. Now, a mission, I'm not going to read it now, but a mission is something, is kind of already a way to, in achieving that vision. So in a way, it's a step closer to the strategy itself. However, it's still much more vague, and it's intended to stay there for more than 3 years. All right, next slide. So these are our stakeholders. I hope you can see them well. Maybe if you're watching this in a YouTube, you can pause it later and then get a little glass to see it a bit better. But we can see that the most relevant, the most important stakeholders for us are, of course, the NMOs. So the importance of the stakeholder is indicated by the size of the circle, whereas the proximity of the circle to the center means how close they are to our work. So how integral that stakeholder is to our work. So just to give you an example, officials are quite important. You can see the circle is quite big, not as big as the NMOs, and it's very, very close to the center. That means that basically officials work for IFMSA every single day. It's similar with the employees. The circle is a bit smaller than the NMOs, but they're very close to the work of IFMSA because we collaborate with them every day. Now, NMOs we deem as more important, but a bit further away because not all NMOs are active every day or every week, though that doesn't mean that they're not important. Other stakeholders that we can see on this map are so some external organizations such as partner NGOs, UN agencies. We also have a very important stakeholders that is kind of falling under our members, which are non-officials. Maybe that needs a bit of explanation. So those are very active IFMSA members that don't hold an official position. So program coordinators, international teams, international assistants, task force members, and so on. Then a bit further away, we also have medical students. Those are medical students that are not members of our NMOs. We have medical schools, we have potential NMOs. We also have advisors. By advisors, we mean the board of recommendation, alumni, and the honorary life members. There's also one more stakeholder that we haven't really included in this map, but we also identified as really, really important, and that is the communities that we serve. Yes, okay, that's it for the stakeholders. Next slide. And these are our priorities that we've identified as being important, or kind of the areas we want to explore for our next strategy. So the first one is prioritization itself. We'll get more into details on what these priorities actually mean a bit later. Every one of us will present one of the priorities, and you'll be able to ask questions at that time as well. So the first one is prioritization. Second one is secretariat. Can you go back, please? Third one, thank you. Third one is finances. Fourth one is participation and representation, and fifth one is outside in. And now what we will do is we'll go through all of these priorities and explain them a bit better.
Okay, so my name is Monica and I'm the Vice President for Members. So the first priority is prioritization. First, it's important to say that when we talk about prioritization, it's the prioritization of IFMSA and not necessarily the prioritization that NMOs do in their own organizations. IFMSA is becoming, is growing, becoming stronger, and so is the requirements. And it's very positive, but at the same time, that also brings some struggles. So for example, the team of officials and the executive boards at times are very overburdened with tasks. There are simply sometimes too many tasks, and some positions cannot be taken if the official does not take a year off from the medical studies. There's a lot of expectations and everyone wants to do their best, so it's really difficult to prioritize what to do and what not to do. Also, when we look at the field of work that we do, so the global health area, it's enormous. And again, we try to work in each and every field. We now have for example, the global external focus areas, which helps us prioritize a bit, but we still work on a lot. And the problem is when we try to do everything, it's very difficult to put a lot of quality into each and everything we do. And so the quality is sometimes missed. So the last thing is also, when we do not prioritize, this also means that each official that goes into office have the responsibility to make their own plan for the year. And then the next year there's a new official in office who might find some other things important. And that means that all the work done one year can be completely changed into another direction the year after, because we do not have priorities set for the federation itself. So yeah, this is about the prioritization topic.
Okay, speaking now is Joachim, Vice President for Finance. There's no real news that our federation isn't quite where we would like it to be financially. We face a lot of limitations on most levels, from local projects to NMOs and in our international work. These limitations disrupt our democratic process by interfering with participation of members, and also dictates who's able to run for international positions. They also hinder us from reaching our vision as a federation to take full advantage of many opportunities that are presented to us, and official who tries to cover the differences usually ends up with a lot of personal debts. And this is to mention just a few of the problems we face in this field. Finances isn't necessarily something that is hard or complicated, but as medical students, it might be something we aren't used to work with, something that might be outside our comfort zone or even outside of our interests. It usually means that finances are moved to the side and not addressed properly until we discover that it's necessary, by which point it's usually a bit late. Also, depending purely on the year-to-year capacity of the people in charge isn't a sustainable way of addressing the problem. Instead, we would then suggest that finances needs to be a central part of our work, a natural aspect of everything we do. This would allow us to have a continuous development in the area, allowing us to become the foundation for which we can reach where we would like to be. Yes, that would be it, I think.
Okay, so this is Dominic speaking. I'm the Vice President for Activities. And one area of IFMSA I'm in charge with is the Secretariat. The Secretariat, broadly speaking, are all professionals that are working for IFMSA by contract. That's a very important distinction we do here. You will realize that for an organization to actually employ somebody as their own employee will be very difficult legally. So that's why we have long-term collaborations with different organizations that provide us professional staff, and we pay them for them. One such collaboration is with the Academic Medical Center, AMC. That is the University Hospital of the University of Amsterdam, where we have a secretary working for us 24 hours a week. We pay AMC and they employ the secretary for us. We have MTH, Accountants and Advisors. They are a bookkeeping firm in Amsterdam, and we are paying for their services. They're doing our bookkeeping. Furthermore, we are asking for legal advice on different processes in the federation. We have a organization called DLA Piper that is searching for lawyers that provide pro bono legal advice, that is to say free legal advice to NGOs. So, and through these collaborations, we have established a secretariat, which was adopted during August meeting 2014. It's a cornerstone of the IFMSA reform. It was already prominently featured in the last strategic plan, and will also be featured in the new strategic plan. As Joachim already mentioned, there is a lot of skills needed from a medical student to be in a leadership position in IFMSA, and that is actually scarcely found in medical students, particularly also for executive board members. Compared to other international federations, IFMSA has an EB that has a lot of administrative tasks. Each and every one of us is in charge of spreadsheets and everything, and this is something that takes away a lot of time that could be used towards content level work. Next slide, please. So This is why we would like to further use the Secretariat to enhance our work, and we do not think that anybody would disagree with us on the point that we need to expand the Secretariat to make processes in IFMSA more consistent and to allow the EB and also the rest of the TO to work more strategically. However, the Secretariat does have a high costs, and we currently simply do not have a stable income source big enough to sustain it. So you can already see that this area of the new strategic plan is very linked to the finances priority, and will also be linked in the final document probably. An overreaching goal to expand the Secretariat to work for the work of the EB and all officials is also something that you will probably all agree on, but still we do need some consultation. We need to know what areas of work that should be integrated into the Secretariat, for example. Also, the Secretariat has a structure as of now. However, this structure can be changed. It could be changed, for example, to better serve the leadership of the Federation, and that's also something we need your input on. We'll also have a lot of consultation with the IFMSA Secretary, with MTH, and also with other partner NGOs that have strong secretariats. Yes, that would be my part.
Yes, so it's me speaking again. The next priority is representation and participation. So we all know that there's a big variation in the representation and participation of IFMSA. When we talk about representation, it's representation in the attendance at our general assemblies. It's who is having or who is voting when we take decisions, who is holding the positions in IFMSA in the team of officials, assistants, who participates in the delegations we send to external meetings, and also who is host of our general assemblies, our regional meetings, our sub-regional trainings. So in all of these places, we do have a big variation in who is participate or represented in these fields. When it comes to participation, it's more about how do we interact in IFMSA, and who gives input, who interacts in the discussions that we have online, face-to-face. So in general, in the decision-making processes, we do have also some variations in who participates and not. And this is between NMOs, but it's also between regions. So we do have some NMOs that are very active on all parameters and some NMOs that are not active at all. The same regional-wise, that we have some regions that are active everywhere, and we have some regions that are not very active in some fields. So when we do have, so for example, if we have the same people or the same NMOs represented in all of these places, it also means that everything we do will sort of be seen from the perspective of the active or the people in the positions and the people giving their input. And therefore, all the decisions that we take will also be taken based on the needs of these people. So somehow it becomes systematic and a circle that is difficult to come out of if we do not try to address it specifically, because, yeah, as I say, then all the decisions we take, will be taken by those who are engaged. So this is, there's a lot of reasons to why it is, and I think we've discussed that also in, every year we discuss it with visa issues, financial issues, time constraints, priorities, but I guess there's even more, and that is some of the things that we would like to dig more into with this strategy. Thank you.
Okay, now going to the final priority that we'll be consulting you on. Yes, maybe an introduction from my side, a bit late, rookie mistake, but my name is Andrea. I'm the Vice President for Capacity Building. Just for everyone who doesn't know me yet. So yeah, the last priority is called outside in. It's a bit more abstract and it takes a bit of explanation to understand it. The basic questions are that, is what we do really what is kind of what the world needs, or is it just us conveying our personal interests? We've been asking this question to ourselves quite a lot, because we see often in IFMSA, somebody has this cool idea or their interest, and then they try to push it quite a lot in the agenda, either at meetings or online, however it is, but they very seldomly ask themselves, is that really what the world needs? Is that really how I can serve the world in the best way? Maybe to make it understand a little bit better, I made up an example that's about the cookie virus. So the cookie virus is a virus that is endemic in the region of Kukia, which is in the Republic of Sweden. Okay, it has a very high mortality rate, 60% of anyone who contracts it, but it's very contained. So it's only in a few villages, right? So in the end, a yearly death toll of this disease is about 300 people, which of course is very sad, and it's has a very big impact on the people who live there, but it's not present anywhere else in the world. Now there are students from Kukia who are very active, and they are of course very concerned about this virus. So they're trying to do everything in their power to try to solve it. That also means going to the GA, trying to put sessions about this virus on the agenda, maybe in a theme event. They're trying to push for a policy statement, but they don't really ask themselves, okay, how does this compare to the scope of the global health arena? So how is this really relevant to the world? Aren't there any other diseases that are more prevalent that if we work on together, we will save more lives by it, right? So this is something that we would like to tackle. It's more of a change in culture of how we work, is that every time that we do something, we ask ourselves, is this only coming from me? So is it coming from inside out? Or is this really something that the world needs and I'll act according to it? So it comes from the outside in. Please, which basically just kind of sums up these questions that I already said. So does it really make sense to address this challenge of Kukia and a GA? Does it make sense to use the resources that we have, let's say, 1,000 medical students in one place for a week, and most of the agenda or a lot of the agenda is taken up by a point that's not really that relevant to basically anyone except for a few individuals that are there? Is that really the best way for us to serve the communities? And there's also a third thing, which is we very seldom ask ourselves is if what we do afterwards, does it work? Or we don't really measure it either. So we don't use evidence-based approaches enough, and that can relate to interventions such as public health projects. It can relate to capacity building, and this is also something that we might want to keep in mind in the future, or at least why we're doing this right now is to consult you what you think about it, how that can be solved, how maybe we can change our culture a little bit more in a way that our actions really reflect the work or really answer to the challenges of global health in an effective way. Thank you.
All right, so it's Firas here, the Vice President for Public Relations and Communication. I want to thank the EB for presenting the priorities and the process so far. And as they mentioned earlier, we have already started the consultation process with the African region, with the American region in the upcoming meeting, also with the EMR in the next few weeks, and then in the GA with everyone else. However, that leaves out two very big regions that we have, because their regional meetings are in April and June. So for that, we would like to have an online consultation for the European region and the Asia Pacific region, as much input from them as possible before we start analyzing the data. So in the next coming few weeks, probably a month, we will be having a certain online consultation. The exact process is not yet settled. We will be discussing that in the EB a bit further. Next few weeks, we will be having a certain way whereby we can reach to members from Europe and Asia Pacific so that we can hear from them about the priorities that were just presented. Also in the online consultation is the consultation with our alumni, our honorary life members, and other potential stakeholders like external partner organizations, MTH and the secretary that Dominic talked about, as well as other medical students, probably. So every priority will have about a week of discussion whereby we will have questions about that priority to get a lot more input from you as to what you think about them. This input will be collected along with the rest of the input collected from other regions and other meetings, and will be analyzed all together after the March meeting in the process leading up to end April. That's about it for the presentation. Now I'm going to stop sharing the presentation. We'll revert back to our beautiful faces so you could see us and ask us any questions that you have.
I think
So
maybe just to mention that you can ask questions in the YouTube, in the live chat. We're also very vigilant of what's going on there, so we'll make sure to get your question and answer it. Okay, it seems to be, we'll wait for a minute more or two. If there are no questions, we would like all of you to know that we are always reachable on our emails. We got a question right now. The order of priorities is from high to low. No, not really. We think of these priorities as being equal in terms of priority. And also, maybe something to explain, what the priorities are now for the consultation does not necessarily mean they will be the priorities of the strategy itself. So if we find certain patterns or aspects coming up within these consultations, we will we'll put those as the priorities of the strategy, not the ones that we listed so far. Okay, maybe I can answer the next question as well. So the question is that we mentioned the problems and priorities and about the solutions. So solutions are part of the consultations that we're doing. We very deliberately do not share current solutions or ideas for solutions right now because we don't want to influence your input. After we get this input from you, it will also contain the solutions. Also the processes that we had so far regarding, so the process of consultations we had so far also included getting solutions for these priorities. And then at the end, when we'll finish with the consultation process and when we'll have the draft, solutions will already be included in that.
So should I go for the next question about Asia Pacific and Europe? So we are discussing different options for Asia Pacific and Europe. One is to have a closed Facebook page to collect their input and sort of have it in parallel with the general input that we get, and make sure that we have members from Asia Pacific and Europe, both presidents and also members who do know something about IFMSA. Other suggestions have been to have a Google Doc where they can come with suggestions, or to have online meetings, because some regions do have online meetings with their presidents at certain time slots. We do know that the input that we get by these type of consultations will be different from the input that we've got from the other three regions, but we do not think that that would be a problem. So yeah, it's not settled yet, and we're currently discussing with the regional directors from these two regions on the best way forward, because it's not for sure that it's the same strategy that works for both regions.
All right. Then I suppose if there are no more questions right now, we can bring this webinar to an end. And like I was saying earlier, you can always contact us on the email, eb@ifmsa.org, and we'll do our best to answer your questions. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.